Oh, Westbridge Hills, welcome back to episode 2 with me, Mr. Silly P. Right, we come back to find that the Deutzfahr AgroStar with the cultivator is nearly finished on this field. When we start to build up a bit more money, I need to replace that cultivator. It needs to be a big one, or a seeder that does cultivating, because the seeder is incredibly small as well. And this is one of the smaller fields on this map. It was taking a long time to do this. Can you imagine how long it's going to take to do some of the big maps? The big fields. So what I'm going to do with the seeder, I'm going to do across the headers. I've already done the bottom end, 2 or 3 strips, so it's got room to turn around. Whoa, okay, that's weird. And I've got a front weight on as well. I don't know why I did that. Oh, it's a bit of bump in the ground. So yeah, 2 or 3 strips across the top, then I'll go up and down. It just gives them room to turn around without going out onto the road and causing all sorts of traffic problems. I do like the detail, the suspension rocking up and down, and the weight distribution when the seeder hits the ground. We will probably check back on the cultivator in a minute because he must be finished. He was on the last strip. Down that bottom corner, looks like he's stopped. Yep, he's done. So we'll pop the cultivator away. That's his job done. Spoilt for choice. Got lots of storage down here in this yard. But then, to be fair, I've got very small equipment and not very much of it at the moment. So selling all of our seed and all of our other stuff, we've got a little bit of money. But then I did buy the fertiliser sprayer. And I did buy a front mower as well. So the money we did make, we're back down again. Not hugely, but we are back down again. Okay, so we'll set him off. Up and down. Right, so here we are. This is the setup I've got. This is now just doing grass for silage. So I've got the Schluter tractor, Kuhn front mower, and the forage wagon, trailer, whatever you want to call it, behind. This is the problem when you're starting off from scratch. It's all this that takes the time. When you're running mods on PC versions, and if you've got the rental mod and that kind of stuff, renting forage harvesters and things like that, once you've got a little bit of money, can really speed this process up. Unfortunately, because you can't do that, it just takes time. You haven't got a more powerful tractor, so if you buy a bigger forage wagon, it can't pull it or operate it, so you have to go with the smaller ones. The smaller ones fill up relatively quickly, but then you have to do more runs backwards and forwards to the silage bins, silage bays. It is filling up, but it just takes a little bit of time. The other option, of course, is to have a tractor with triple mowers, have the butterfly mowers on the back and single on the front, mow long strips, windrow it, then go along with the forage wagon. But again, you're triple handling it all then. You mow first, then windrow, then go over the forage wagon. You know, swings and roundabouts. We've said it before with lots of different tasks. So there we go, full load. Finally, take it down to the silage bay. I've already got some in here. I'm aiming to get today 150,000 litres in here maybe. If I can get 150,000 in here, I'll probably blanket it and start it fermenting. So I've got some silage to work with. I will need to make some more money as well, because there's a couple of things I want to do. While that is obviously fermenting, and while field 16 is growing, I've got nothing to do. I can do more silaging, but I need to make money. So this becomes a kind of never-ending task of doing this. So I want to think of another way of making money. So what I might do is a bit of forestry. Now this map isn't particularly known for forestry because it hasn't got any forests. There are trees dotted around and a few fir trees here and there. So what I might do is just get a chainsaw. I was thinking of getting a tractor with the front loader with a log grab, but I think a cheaper option would be to get the JCB skid steer from the JCB DLC. I think it's only 49,000 for the skid steer, and get, no, I don't buy the log fork, I get the manure fork. And if you've watched any of the episodes when I did a logging episode on Bjornholm, on the Down on the Farm series, yeah, I get the manure fork because the prongs, the splines on the bottom are much thinner and you can get them under logs easier. I just find it easier to use than the log fork itself. So yeah, that's what I might do then. I might get the JCB, get the manure fork, get a chainsaw and do a bit of kind of manual logging. Get a few trees in, see what I get for them, because what I am going to need to do is raise enough money to buy the self-propelled food mixer feeder wagon, the Kuhn SPV Comfort, because that's what I'm going to use for the silage. Again, if you've watched the previous gameplay series on Bjornholm, you might have seen me do it a few times. I did do an episode, a standalone kind of how-to video on selling silage, and that's, you know, people use wheel loaders and buckets and various different options, and if you've got mods you might download and use the conveyor belt mod, which is another great one. Stick one conveyor belt into the silage, one conveyor belt into the hoppers, and you can just tip between the two with big trailers. Right, seeder's empty. Whiz back and fill that up. The seeders generally, even if they run dry, they run down to zero. They will continue to seed, but it takes the money straight from your bank account. If it takes it straight from your bank account, it charges you more for the seed than if you fill up here at the seed station. So it's always, I mean, if you've got plenty of money and you think, well, it doesn't matter, I'll leave it running. If it runs out, it will carry on seeding. If you've got the money to spare, then great, makes no difference. If you haven't, then you're better off whizzing back, filling it up and coming back out again. So the other reason why I probably want to get a bigger seeder is the seed tank on this is tiny. So it will run out very quickly. But these are the trials and tribulations of starting off a new map from scratch. It takes a little while to get set up, and then it's funny how a few hours in you'll suddenly think back and you won't remember how time consuming and difficult it was to get this going in the first place. Like say, the relentless grass cutting for silage, the small seeders, the small cultivators. It just takes time. So another load dumped off. I am getting closer. I think what I might do as well at some point while I'm doing one of these grass collections, I might drop some grass off with the cows. I've still only got 8 cows. And when I did the harvest on 16 initially, I took some of the straw down, so they've got straw. If I take some grass down, they've got straw and grass. Obviously they won't have any of the other food they need, but it'll be alright. Still chugging away, quite happily. Right, I've made my decision. I'm going to take the second Deutz Agro Star and I'm going to sell it. At the shop I'll get more for it, and if I've got enough I'm going to buy the JCB. I should have enough. Get the JCB and the fork. There we go, 49,000 I think. Yep. And as I said, the manure fork, not the log fork. Just a personal preference. Okay. Now, this I will speed up because I think the top speed of this is only 13 miles an hour. So getting this down towards where the lumber selling point is going to take a little while. So I'm going to go down, do a little bit of logging to start off with, get myself going. And we'll jump forward to that probably. Very detailed in the cabin this. So, a few trees in. It's always interesting, it does say longer and straighter trees you get more money for. If you put a whole tree in, you get less than if you cut it in half and put it in these 2 separate sections. It's a bit peculiar. So what I'll probably do with a lot of these is just chop them in half and put them in. But I can see it's been quite a time consuming process, so I don't know whether or not, once I've got a little bit more money, whether or not to get a trailer. So if the log trailers are quite big, maybe getting a trailer, doing a few trees and piling them onto a trailer and then taking them down to the sell point. Might do that. We'll see. As you can see, this is rather slow, so I have to say, another mod I saw used the other day on one of Daggerwin's videos was the firewood, I think firewood mod. Every time you cut a tree, it puts wood chips into a pallet, and then you get money for them. So every time you cut a tree, you're getting wood chips automatically. It's a brilliant idea. Yeah, do like the idea of that, especially if you're going to be cutting a few trees down. Right, finally, that field is done. Harvested, cleared, cultivated, fertilised and seeded. So that now, it just needs to grow. Got canola in there, so once it has grown, should make a nice bit of profit on that crop. And with the fertiliser I should get a higher yield, we'll see. And then build up enough money that maybe buy a second field and then gradually work our way up like you do normally. Right, drop that off there. Now, the other thing I said I was going to do, seeing as I've done a few logs, I've got a bit of money there now, I did say I was going to try and get a bigger header for the harvester, for the next harvest. I don't want to go mad and go too big because the pipe won't be long enough to unload it. But I'm thinking the New Holland Vari-Feed, the next one up, if I sell the one for the Comia, I'll get a bit of money back and then buy the next size up. It's not much bigger, it's a little bit bigger, it'll make it a little bit easier. So, whiz up. There's lots of little bitty things today, but all needs to be done. And as I said, we get to that point where once this field is good to go, which it is now, I can't do anything with it. Once I've got enough in the silage bay that I'm happy to blanket it to start off with, that's done. Can't really do much else. So it will be a little bit more logging. I could just carry on realistically going around and around the map with the mower and the forage wagon and then start filling up another silage bay. But I have to say, I've been doing it for quite a while off screen and it's soul destroying. So I think I'll just blanket it and do a little bit of logging just for a change, in all honesty. So, got a bit of money back for that. Get the Vari-Feed. Now, the big question is, does it fit on and will it operate? I have heard rumours that this works. And I know when I did my combine harvester buying guide, I did tell whoever watched it, wants to watch it, that you can switch these headers around. I'm hoping I wasn't wrong. It's picked up, that's a good start. And does it operate? That's the question. Oh, can adjust the header. Lower and raise it. I'm assuming you'll be able to turn it on. Don't need to test that. Well, so I don't need to. And now the big question, is the pipe long enough that you can still unload the header? There we go. And like I say, the header's not, I think it's taken it from a 4.2 metre to a 5.5, I think, but it will make a bit of difference. Right, that's that back. Park it up out the way. Not going to need it until that field is ready to harvest again. It's interesting, a lot of the modded maps on PC, when you start them, a lot of the fields that you don't own yet already have crops in. So if you do buy them, there are crops in that you can harvest, and some of the fields you start with also have crops in. Right, logging, as you can see, we have jumped ahead a little bit. So I stopped doing this silaging for a little bit and started cutting down trees. I did buy the low loader, but because I haven't got a lorry or a truck, I got the dolly to attach to it so a tractor can pull it, and decided, in rather unconventional use of the trailer, that because I can drive the skid steer up onto it, because the arm on the skid steer is not that big, so loading up a log trailer would be quite tricky. This, actually, you can just drive them straight up on the back and drop them on. Works out quite well. It's been a bit of a faff chopping all the trees up into sort of 3s and 4s. And I'm thinking if I do this again, I might just chop the trees in half and have them overhanging either side of the trailer. But that's what I've gone with this time. So once the trailer's full, we'll drive it down to the lumber selling point and see how we've done. It's always a bit soul destroying when you build up a head of money. You've got a bit sitting there and you think, okay, what do I need to get? And then you buy a couple of bits and think, oh, I'm back to square one again, I've just wasted the money. But realistically, it's not wasted. You've bought machinery, or you might have bought a field, or you might have bought something. So you've invested in extra kit. You haven't just thrown that money away. So when all's said and done, even if I end up at the end of this episode back where I was, money-wise, I will have more equipment. I've got the JCB, I've got the header, I've got a low loader, I've bought a header for the harvester. My aim is to get enough money that I can buy that self-propelled food wagon, so I can do the silage when the silage is fermented. So hopefully we'll end up, if not with lots of money, at least with more equipment. So I'm going to leave the JCB on the back, hopefully to stop the logs shifting around. Raise that back up, the tailgate. Now I've dropped the cruise control down to 0 because I don't want to jerk this and it suddenly go all over the place. So if you set the cruise control on, but on 0, roll that back and set it on, it will just creep, and all we just do is nudge forward the cruise control a couple of notches at a time and you get a much more progressive pull away. I did it, I was helping a friend on multiplayer, and we loaded up a trailer with sapling pallets, and literally we piled them up, but then in turning a corner too quickly lost the load off the side. So it's far easier to avoid that movement by speeding up and slowing down using the cruise control. So we made it safe and sound, and as I suspected, they're a little bit too high off the ground for the cell trigger to recognise there are actually logs there, so we're probably going to have to actually unload them into the cell point. If you watched my last, not my last, but one of the episodes when I did a bit of late night logging on down on the farm on Bjornholm, I ended up knocking the entire trailer over and then picking it back up again. But this might work with the ramp down at the back. If I just reverse back and stop sharply, they might roll off. They are rolling off into the cell point. It's a bit unorthodox, probably not to be suggested in real life, but it'll work. There you go, right down to the last one. If this falls off, there we go. Okay, 116,000. Interestingly, that is to buy the self-propelled mixer wagon, but I might wait a little till I've got a little bit more money before because that would take me back down to nothing. Right, gone back to finishing this off. I don't want to put too much more in here before blanketing it. I'm also thinking there's a possibility with this to do this kind of thing a bit quicker. It would be to get a friend on, do multiplayer, 2 of us, and do what I suggested. One drives in front with the butterfly mower and the front mower, cuts a much wider area. Person drives behind with the windrower, windrows it all up, and you can drive all around the map doing that. And then at a later date you then just drive around with the forage wagon collecting it all, and the forage wagon will fill up a lot quicker because there'll be, for all intents and purposes, 3 rows of grass all rowed into one. That's the option. I don't know, we'll see. Right, I think that will do. Let's jump out. Yeah, I'm going to blanket it. Boom. Right, that's now fermenting. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Lots got done. Join us again for episode 3. Thanks for watching.